All right, so are you ready to go deep?
Always.
Okay, good. Because today we're diving into the life and career of Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. This'll be good.
Now, obviously, everyone knows who he is.
Right.
But today we're going way back to uncover what made him the man he is today.
It's a fascinating story for sure.
It really is. So to do that, we're going beyond just the headlines.
Yeah.
We've got biographies, articles, interviews, even some of his, shall we say, entrepreneurial ventures.
Oh, yeah.
Things like Trump
Oh,
Steaks,
yeah.
Trump Water.
A urine test kit?
I mean, who knew?
You name it, he's tried to sell it.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yes, we will.
But the goal here is to understand the man behind the brand.
Absolutely.
By the end of this, you'll have a much clearer picture of Trump's motivations, his strategies, and how they impact everything he does.
It all connects.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Donald Trump, born in Queens, New York,
Right.
but his childhood wasn't exactly typical.
Yeah, born into wealth thanks to his father, Fred Trump, a successful real estate developer.
Ah, so he kind of had a leg up.
He did. But Fred also instilled a very specific work ethic in Donald, along with this intense focus on winning.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was less about participating and more about dominating whatever he did.
Interesting. So it's not just nature, it's nurture too.
Absolutely. And there's a story that shows this perfectly from his time at the New York Military Academy.
But what's that?
So apparently he was obsessed with winning the Neatness Award for his uniform.
The Neatness Award.
Yep. Meticulously prepared everything, practicing marching for hours just to win.
Wow.
And get this, he even got upset when a classmate won the Best Athlete Award.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and it wasn't even a competition he was in.
That is telling.
It really is.
It sounds like this need to be the best was with him from day one.
Definitely part of his DNA.
So after the military academy, he joins his father's business, focusing on middle and low-income housing.
Right.
And then things take an interesting turn with a discrimination lawsuit.
Yeah, this is where things get complex. In the 1970s, the Department of Justice sued the Trump Organization for racial discrimination in their housing practices.
Really?
Evidence suggested they were systematically denying Black and Hispanic applicants while accepting white applicants.
So how did Trump react? Did he cooperate?
Well, not quite. Instead of taking a conciliatory approach, he actually countersued the DOJ.
You what?
Yeah, for $100 million, claiming they were targeting him unfairly.
Countersuing the government. That's a bold move.
It was, and the judge immediately dismissed it.
Of course.
But it showed a pattern we see a lot with Trump.
Oh, how so?
He'll fight back against any accusation fiercely. He refuses to admit wrongdoing and always prioritizes his image.
Interesting.
In the end, he settled, but without acknowledging any guilt.
Wow, so it sounds like this really solidified his approach to dealing with any kind of accusation.
Absolutely, always on the offensive.
So that was just housing. But his real estate ambitions didn't stop there.
Oh no, far from it.
He soon set his sights on Manhattan.
Drawn to the prestige, the power it represented.
I get it.
At the time, New York City was struggling, but Trump saw opportunity.
It always seems to.
He did. Using connections and his family's wealth, he acquired and renovated properties.
Like the Commodore Hotel turning it into the Grand Hyatt.
Exactly.
And of course, you can't forget Trump Tower.
Right, one of his signature buildings.
But wasn't there a story about a bridge opening that gives us some insight into Trump's thinking during this time?
Ah, yes, the story of the bridge and the architect.
Okay. What?
Trump was at this grand opening of a huge bridge in New York City,
Okay.
and he noticed how the actual architect was completely ignored by the politicians and the press.
So,
This made a big impact on Trump.
really?
He realized that true success wasn't just about achieving something, it was about being recognized for it.
Huh.
About making sure you weren't just doing the work while others took the credit.
So it's not just about winning, it's about the performance of winning.
You got it. Perception becomes reality.
Interesting.
And this leads us to how Trump cultivated his public image.
Oh yeah, he's a master of that.
He used the media, particularly the New York tabloids, to create this larger-than-life persona of a successful, no-nonsense businessman.
I mean, it worked.
He understood how to play to people's desires, create a brand that was aspirational.
Even if it was a little exaggerated.
Little.
And then we get the era of Trump, well, everything. Airlines, board games, steaks, even a urine test kit.
He put his name on it all.
We almost bought one on eBay for this episode.
Really?
I'm not kidding.
That's dedication.
Well, we wanted to go all out.
I can see that.
But it's interesting because a lot of these ventures weren't traditional businesses.
Sure.
He was licensing his name to other companies.
Right, minimizing his risk while maximizing profits.
So his business acumen was more about marketing and creating a spectacle, than the nuts and bolts of running a company.
He understood the power of a brand, and he used it.
Like no one else.
Pretty much, and this is just the beginning.
Right. We've got a lot more ground to cover.
Oh.
Okay, so we left off talking about Trump's, I guess you could call it a knack for branding.
Oh, yeah. He understands that game better than most.
Putting his name on everything.
Trump this, Trump that.
Right. But it's like, he was almost a reality TV star before reality TV was even a thing.
You know, you're right about that.
And speaking of reality TV, we got to talk about The Apprentice.
Oh, yeah. That was huge for him.
It's completely changed his image, I think.
It really did. He went from this, like, brash businessman to a boardroom boss making tough decisions.
You were fired.
Exactly. And millions of people tuned in each week.
Yeah, they loved it.
But they weren't just watching a show. They were getting introduced to this character, Donald Trump, the ultimate businessman, the tough negotiator.
The guy who gets things done.
Exactly. And that image, that's what paved the way for his political career.
Yeah. I mean, this 2016 presidential campaign, it was basically The Apprentice, White House edition.
You could say that.
Same themes, strength deal-making.
Promising to make America great again.
Tapping into that nostalgia.
For sure, people feeling like things were slipping away.
And he wasn't afraid to shake things up.
Oh no, he went against the grain, challenged everything, and used social media like we'd never seen before.
Twitter was his weapon of choice.
He bypassed the traditional media, talking directly to voters in this, like, brash, unfiltered way.
It was refreshing for some, alarming for others.
It was definitely a new style of political communication.
But it resonated with a lot of people, those who felt ignored by the establishment.
Yeah, the drain the swamp message.
They saw him as this outsider, not beholden to anyone.
Someone who would fight for them.
But his appeal wasn't just about policy or ideology.
No, it's much deeper than that.
More about a feeling.
Yeah, like a sense of anxiety, a feeling that the American dream was slipping away.
That things weren't the way they used to be.
Right, and he spoke to those fears about economic insecurity, cultural change.
The loss of identity.
He offered a simple solution, a return to greatness.
A restoration of order.
A promise to fix everything.
Powerful stuff, even if it lacked specifics.
But his presidency wasn't simple at all.
Oh no, it was anything but.
Controversy after controversy.
From the travel ban to his handling of the pandemic.
Yeah, it was constant.
And his governing style, it was a lot like his business style.
Confrontational, impulsive, driven by personal grievances.
Always picking fights.
With the media, with political opponents.
Even with world leaders.
He seemed to enjoy it.
But he was also incredibly polarizing.
Absolutely.
His supporters loved his defiance, his willingness to challenge the status quo.
They saw him as a strong leader, unafraid to speak his mind.
But his critics, they saw him as dangerous.
Authoritarian, unfit for office.
They were really concerned about his attacks on democratic norms.
His disregard for facts.
And then there was January 6th.
Yeah, that was a dark day.
A culmination of all that division and rhetoric.
A real attack on our democracy.
And now here we are in 2024, and he's back running for president again.
I don't think anyone could have predicted this a few years ago.
It's wild.
But it shows his staying power.
His ability to tap into that anxiety, that fear.
And offer that same vision of return to greatness.
Make America great again. Again. But the stakes feel even higher now.
They do. We've seen what can happen when you erode those democratic norms.
When truth doesn't matter.
And political discourse is all anger and resentment.
Will America heed the warnings this time?
Or will we see a repeat of what happened before?
It's a question we'll have to grapple with.
As this story continues to unfold.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have from real estate to reality TV to the presidency.
But I think now it's time to get into some specific examples.
Right. Get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, things that really highlight Trump's, well, his way of doing things.
You know, when we were prepping for this, one thing kept coming up.
Oh, what's that?
Trump University.
Oh, yeah, a university. That wasn't really a university.
Exactly.
I mean, what was the deal with that? Was he actually trying to teach people about real estate?
Well, that's how it was sold.
So what did they promise?
That people would learn the secrets to Trump's success. His real estate strategies.
Become rich like him.
Exactly. They even had these expensive seminars with hand-picked instructors. Yeah, the vetting process for those instructors was questionable at best.
Sounds a little too good to be true.
It was thousands of people signed up, paid big money, and then they found out the education was subpar, mostly motivational speeches and high-pressure sales tactics.
Oh, so to sign up for even more expensive programs.
Right. It was all about selling the Trump brand, not real education.
So what happened?
Well, former students started complaining, filing lawsuits claiming fraud and deception,
How did Trump respond?
like he always does.
Which is,
Fought back, aggressively denied any wrongdoing, and even attacked the judge overseeing the case.
so classic Trump.
He claimed it was a political witch hunt, of course.
Always deflecting blame.
And turning accusations into a way to rally his supporters.
Yeah, that's definitely a pattern we see throughout his career.
Oh, absolutely. Any criticism, whether from the media opponents, even former allies,
He always turns it around, makes himself the victim.
and uses it to solidify his base.
It's fascinating and a little scary.
It can be, but it's effective, and we can't forget his use of the legal system.
Oh yeah, he's been involved in thousands of lawsuits.
It's almost like he sees litigation as a tool.
A way to intimidate his opponents.
Wear them down, even if his case is weak.
It's less about the law and more about getting what he wants.
Exactly. The ends justify the means.
It's like a business strategy in itself.
And speaking of strategy, we have to talk about his relationship with the truth.
Oh boy. Yeah, he's known for stretching the truth, shall we say.
Making exaggerated claims, bending facts, sometimes outright lying.
I remember during his presidency, there were fact-checking websites just to keep up with his false statements.
It was unbelievable. He seems to operate under this idea that if you repeat something enough, people will believe it.
Regardless of evidence.
And social media gave him the perfect platform for that.
Twitter was his megaphone.
Unfiltered, unchecked, he could say whatever he wanted.
And control the narrative.
He created his own reality bubble.
It's like we're living in a post-truth world.
It can feel that way, where facts don't matter as much as feelings.
So where does that leave us? What have we learned from this deep dive into Donald Trump?
I think we've seen how powerful personality and branding can be.
And how dangerous unchecked ambition can be.
It's a reminder that truth and democratic norms are fragile.
And that we can't take them for granted.
We need to be informed, engaged, and hold our leaders accountable.
Because ultimately, the future of our democracy depends on it.
It really does.
This has been quite a journey.
It has. We've seen the highs and lows, the good and the bad.
But I think the biggest takeaway is that Trump's story is really a reflection of us.
Of American society.
Our hopes, our fears, our strengths and weaknesses.
It's a story that's still unfolding.
One that we'll be dealing with for years to come.
So as you go out there, remember to think critically, be discerning, and keep asking questions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Donald Trump. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little unsettling.
Until next time, keep diving.